Is on a mission to get rid of Obamacare. He plans to replace it, but the question is with what? That's the million-dollar question.
That is the million-dollar question. And also we have joining our discussion Mr. John Frykenberg, who is a historian, and we wanted to have you weigh in. What's your take on the future of Obamacare?
Well, I think Obamacare is going to go away. I mean, that's pretty obvious.
Or is it?
Or is it?
Or is it just going to have new packaging?
Yeah, I think it's going to go away completely.
And
I would bet money on that. But
are we moving all the way to single payer, or what do you think we're?
I don't think so.
Headed?
President Trump has said that everybody's going to be included, and that if you're a parent, you get to keep your kids on the plan until they're 26 years old, and if you've got pre-existing conditions, you're going to be allowed to get into the plan. So all
of
those.
Obamacare.
Now that is the legacy of Obama, right?
That is.
Right.
But the actual plan in terms of how it's administered and how it's going to go on is going to be completely different. For instance, we're going to have exchange across the state borders in terms of insurance companies competing.
Right, or whether or not it be something like a block grant. Now, I spoke earlier in the week with Representative Adam Schiff, who did a forum on the issue, and his take on it is that the Republicans are going to have a very hard time come Monday morning when they sit down and talk about this, to really decide how to do it and what the real intense difficulties are, because for the first time, more people are in favor today of Obamacare than not.
Because they just figured out it was the same thing as the Affordable Care Act that they did
true,
like.
John?
Well, except that it proved, over a period of time to be unaffordable, and that's the basic problem. The average cost of health insurance went from about $12,680 a year per family to over $18,000. So that's a well over a 30% increase in costs,
but do you think
unsustainable?
If Republicans had gotten on board in fixing what was the changes that were made in the first place, we wouldn't have been there?
I think it's very difficult for Republicans to have gotten on board when Obamacare was passed in the middle of the night, and you had Nancy Pelosi with a very large stack saying, pass it first and you can read it after the fact.
But now they've been doing a lot of, bill passings and, trying to get rid of ethics committees in the dead of the night. So there's not much change on those kinds of things. So how are they ushering in bipartisanship?
I think there is, because I think President Obama promised to be the most transparent administration in history, and that proved not to be the case.
And these people are saying we're not even going to pretend that we're going to be transparent. We're just going to get it done.
We're going to get it done, but what's going to happen in the process, that costs are going to come down. I'll tell you where they're going to come down.
Where?
They're going to come down in terms of the pharmaceutical companies.
Right, sure.
Because
that needs to be
in the United States are paying about 50% more than Europeans are paying for the same drugs.
Right.
And there's no need for that. If we're allowed to negotiate, and that's put in the law, a huge expense in terms of people who find health care unaffordable now in terms of the deductibles are going to be able to afford health care simply by bringing down the cost of pharmaceuticals and drugs.
Which we could have done, but how do you answer this? One of the things that Congressman Schiff said was that studies clearly show this. When you ask people in the areas that are most against Obamacare if they like the Affordable Care Act and what it does, they say yes. Then you ask them, do you like Obamacare? They say no, including prominent members of the Congress who have said, we shouldn't get rid of the Affordable Care Act, but we need to get rid of Obamacare. Isn't it an image problem there to some extent?
We can talk about semantics in an image problem, but the basic law does not function. I mean, when you were promised a $2,500 deduction, an increase of 30%, and you were promised that you could keep your doctor and you could keep your health care the way, and you didn't deliver on that.
And now those are the same promises that are being made, and now we have to see, are they going to uphold those as well?
Absolutely, and Trump has bet his entire administration on the fact that those costs are going to come down, and that he's telling the truth.
Now how does it work? Because, premiums have been leveling out. Obviously they did skyrocket, and now they've been leveling out. And that's kind of across the board as far as you look at economy. I mean, they really turned the ship around here. And now, you know, the new administration is going to be say, look what we've done. Look how we've leveled things out. Is that a fair?
They haven't really turned it out, though, because it hasn't turned around completely, because you still have a huge number of people who don't have health care at all.
But we have a huge number who do have health care.
Well,
and so what are they going to do about those people?
Okay, in terms of those who were going to be penalized for not paying into Obamacare, last year they paid $6.5 billion in penalties for people who opted out of the system, and more hospitals and doctors have opted out
and
because they're simply not going to accept it.
And what about the 20 million more who are insured now?
Well, that's the major question, and unfortunately, we're not going to have an opportunity to go through it. And there's been lots that's happened this week, and going forward, John, you're going to have to come back, and we'll talk more about it. It's a great opportunity to have you here, and I think there were some good questions.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much.
Well, up next, we get to meet our four-legged friend coming up.
Absolutely, because Piper's Pet segment star Piper Wood introduces us to a new